I'm not sure to whom to address this, but I'll open it up. And it's a different form of recycling. I was speaking to some folks in Louisiana who have a lot of bauxite that has been used to create alumina. They say they can extract rare earth from this bauxite. It is just sitting there, and tons of it. Now, on one, maybe twice, two occasions, they've come up with a business plan where somebody would come in and take this and get maybe scandium or something. And both times, or at least the one time for sure, that they were about to go, like the week before, the Chinese cut their price dramatically and the business model was destroyed. Clearly a market manipulation. So I guess that requires, this is just a wasted resource. It is not breaking new ground. It is taking that which is there. But it would require us to somehow give a price support in case the Chinese did that once more. So I'm not quite sure how that would work, but I open that up because it does seem to be, if there's a lot of residue from copper mining in New Mexico, it seems like you could concentrate rare earth or not so rare earth out of that residue. So, but then again, it would still be susceptible to people coming in and cutting the price. So any thoughts from anybody as to how to approach this issue? Mr. Kang, you seem to...
Yes, sir. Senator, I am not familiar deeply with rare earth materials, but I can share with you from a lithium-ion battery perspective that manufacturers of consumer products today are very interested in closing their loop. So you know, they've spent their time before just selling their products. Now, because of the supply chain issue, they are trying to reclaim their products, to bring them back, so that they can ensure their own supply of raw materials for their future production. So in my thinking, I believe that it is, again, this solves another issue, a supply chain issue.
No, but I guess my specific question is if it is susceptible to market manipulation by somebody cutting the price. Mr. Bazillion?
Yeah, as I said, Senator, these markets are not markets in the way we conceive of them. They are opaque, and there's no price discovery in the way we would, say, use an analogy for something like oil or natural gas. And if you think of rare earths, there's on the order of 15 of them. Each one of them is supposed to have a specific pricing. That price that you see or you can find somehow is garbage.
So what you're really telling us is that we perhaps need an industrial policy or at least some sort of price support that to have a domestic production from used bauxite, we're going to guarantee a price. If it goes above it, you get it, but if not, we'll smooth out the valley, if you will.
I think there's every reason to consider industrial policy. Whether or not you want to put collars and caps onto pricing for commodities is a different story.
Except you cannot support the harvesting, if you will, of a rare earth from residue unless you have some sort of business model which guarantees a return.
That's correct. So if we're in a private sector situation as we are in the United States with markets, it's very difficult without some sort of pricing instrument to give the signal to invest in these things, keeping in mind that bauxite's just one opportunity.
Yes.
There's a mine open today with light rare earths in Mountain Pass, California, and there's to the other senator's point, there's cobalt all over. There's cobalt in Idaho, et cetera. So and then in Wyoming, and West Virginia, they're working.
What Mr. Mills talks about. People don't want mining here.
Right.
This is just sitting by the side of the Mississippi River, and so it has been mined. Mr. Mills.
Well, we should be clear that people don't want mining, or particularly the processing, the chemical processing associated with mining. So there's two parts of this, as I'm sure you're intimately familiar with.
But on the other hand, is if we're already processing the bauxite to make alumina, we actually have the processing which is currently occurring. So it's co-located.
Well, no, but the problem is rare earths in particular are chemically similar, very difficult to separate. So they involve a much more difficult environmentally processes that are difficult to permit here. So there's two sides of this. If you're a private sector investor and you look at the hurdles you have to go through to get state and federal permits to do that kind of chemical process.
So let me just move on.
Huge barrier.
It's not so much I'm concerned about that. Let's assume you can get the permits, but it does seem as if you would have to have some sort of price support in case a market manipulator attempted to cut your feet out from beneath you.
The challenge is proving to Morgan's point, to Dr. Bazillion's point, the challenge of this market is opaque. I doubt you can prove market manipulation because there are so few players with so little market transparency and almost probably half of the minerals that are traded.
Thank you.